Hi everyone, we're back here at Overtime Live, sponsored by F9 Analytics at DisruptCRE New York City. I'm here with the 3D and CRE, the new frontier visualization panel. Gentlemen, could you please introduce yourself?
I'm Greg Angevine with CubeCities. I'm the founder.
I'm Vid, CEO of Augmented Pixels.
Peter Boritz, CEO of Real Data Management.
Haas Ali Khan of CBRE.
So gentlemen, 3D and CRE, what is this new frontier? Let's talk about it. Greg, why don't you start?
Well, we are using 3D mapping tools to light up cities to understand market data, so we can show exactly where space is on a floor and understand what's happening with market dynamics across the city just by lighting up the floors and windows of 3D buildings.
Awesome. Vit.
Augmented Pixels using augmented and virtual reality technology to help real estate developers to sell more properties and to solve some problem for customers.
Awesome.
We help landlords, brokers, asset managers visualize their buildings through our online stacking plan management system, floor plans, and analytics.
You know, I'm really interested in how 3D and virtual reality can help improve corporate real estate efficiency, and I think these technologies are going to be really leading in that way.
So Hussein, let's start with you on this follow-up question. You know, tell us how this 3D technology and what a couple of these gentlemen do, how this is going to, you know, affect the brokerage community, affect owners, developers. How is 3D playing in applications in that? How do you see that coming out?
Well, you know, I don't know if you've ever had this conversation with your client, but you know, client says, "Oh, that's not what I thought I was getting," and I say,
Right.
"Well, you approved the drawings," and the client says, "Yeah, but that's not what I thought I was getting." So I think it's going to be very much a risk reduction tool to help everybody understand what they're getting out of a very messy process. I also see some business process automation going on where you can, instead of like having to send drawings or use physical models, you can do stuff online, real time, nobody has to travel. And then finally, maybe even the creation of alternative reality environments or virtual reality environments where people can interact and have meetings instead of having to, do WebEx and conference calls.
Right. And Vit, you know something about the 3D environment, Oculus Rift or such devices. Can we talk about that and how you think that's going to impact, or already is impacting commercial real estate?
We are already working with all these new devices and doing some prototyping, and we have some successful use cases with our real clients who integrated this solution in a business process of sales. So it changed something on the market. Changes will be like in 1 or 2 years or 3 years. It depends on hardware, on quality of hardware, and we have everything for this now. So now we just looking when it will be improved. Thank you.
Very cool. Let's follow up, Greg, too. You talk about, you're talking about what you guys do. Tell us how some of your customers are experiencing and using your 3D services, and then talk about where you see it kind of going, new customer bases and how they could use it.
Right. Well, our customers are data companies and large entities like Canadian pensions that want to understand what's happening in office markets and compare them. So the directions that we have going forward are looking at the multifamily market and hotels to understand exactly where space is located on a floor and how that can help people make their decisions.
Right. You brought up data as people, data people that use that. Let's talk to the RDM gentleman down here. Let's talk about how data, it's going to 3D and using data is going to be a big thing. Talk about that.
Yeah, exactly, Stephen. I mean, right now, it's just at the early stages of being able to take real-time information and integrate it to any type of visualization tool, if it's 3D or flat 2D drawings. But that's really like the next frontier, because looking at something that is really cool and could be considered by some, like the Xbox for real estate, if you're not having real-time information, for instance, like data points about the physical attributes of the space, the calculations of it, or really the details of who the tenant is and so on, it becomes more of just a marketing tool and not really like a core business, tool.
Right.
So I see, and that's And you break that data disparity by tying into customers' accounting systems. So you have one point of entry, and the APIs then flow that information to the visualization tools.
Right, and then we were just talking about some of the APIs on the panels before, and how they're opening it up with the big data, and so yeah, absolutely. I see a
That's
great
the
marriage
direction.
as we already see between.
It's got to happen, yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
between
I
that.
also think that what you're saying, Peter, applies in corporate real estate environments. I mean, some of my clients have 15, 20, 50, 60 million square feet, and that's like a city.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so it's really hard to, keep track of all that stuff in a virtual environment. I think that could really be a great application.
I think that's a great point. And what I've seen in the corporate real estate space versus the landlord space is that the corporations that are okay with it are allowing the migration of HR information, human resources, the payroll data, when people are being hired, when they're terminated. So they actually will be tracked in their cubicles and in the assets that come along with them, right? So do they own a laptop, they own a cell phone, their unique ID travels with them. Hoteling is very big now, but that's got to come from the HR repository that gets sort of mashed up into the visualization tool.
Right, and Hussein, you said you were talking about a couple clients you mentioned, and they now see this. So let's talk about where's the tipping point. How long until all clients are going to be kind of using 3D as the expectation, the baseline that their expectations are going to be if I'm going to see a project or if I want to see it in 3D?
I think we need to demonstrate some real value, especially in terms of asset utilization, as Peter was describing. I have clients with portfolios that are, pretty large, but not very intensely used, right? And that's really where a lot of value is. And tools like this could, one, help us use assets more intensely, figure out which assets are not being used intensely, and maybe even substitute virtual environments for real environments.
If I can comment on that real quick,
Sure, absolutely.
From the perspective of the landlord community, I've seen the disparity on coming from the fear factor of really do I want to allow my rent roll to be integrated into whatever application or platform it may be. Once you overcome that fear factor and they start to see that value, that's big. And then the second and last piece is the know-how. Today it's much easier, and that's why I think it's going to speed up much more quickly than before. Pre-APIs, it was hard to move data from one system to the other, and there was a lot of double entry of data.
Right.
Now that those barriers are broken down, so fear factor and the ease of use is key.
So, Greg and Vit, you have with your platforms, I would say, I would guess some early adopters in the industry, real estate people who see the vision of how this can help them now. Kind of to the last question, when do you see it from your perspective as the vendors, when do you see this becoming more mainstream and everyone's going to use it for an application?
Now, most of our mobile phone not adopted for augmented reality and virtual reality. We see some new devices like Google Tango or some wearable devices like Magic Leaps. So I'm expecting maybe in 2 years or 3 years it could be mass market. So since all people will have these devices, then it will be mass market. Now it's early stage, but it's still have some profitable for clients. So they understand why they're doing this. So it's not just because of let's do something innovative. They have real value now for now.
Right.
Thank you.
Well, from our perspective, we started the business 5 years ago, figuring out the business model, and
So you were a pioneer. You are truly a pioneer in this game.
time goes by.
Yeah.
But we feel
4 years ago.
the time is now that it's happening. It's now the things are really starting to click. So we're excited to be to have kept with it this long and be part of what's happening.
Yeah, Greg, you did a graphic for us using this building, and I thought it was fantastic. Just from a visualization standpoint, it was great, and I was really happy with it. So
Yeah, it's
I wanted to let
exciting to be able to
everybody
do that.
know. Yeah, very cool. So let's talk about it's one of my favorite subjects. What's next? I know we have a lot of stuff that's still coming and we're not there yet, but kind of what's next? What do you see, wearing devices, like we kind of brought up the virtual reality headsets and they're coming. Are we going to see brokers walking and owners walking around in the city with headsets on and using 3D tools, or, what's next?
I think it's an increase in the quality of the data that's found in the 3D worlds, and maybe data that can be actionable and actual transactions done right in 3D space.
Got it. Okay.
I think what we are expecting like more natural experience, more organic experience from the devices what we have on the market. It's a question of like two next years. After that, I even cannot imagine. It's like cyberpunk, but it's not a question for now to discuss this.
Good.
Well, I'll start off with what I don't think is next. So what's not next is the disintermediation of the brokerage community, for sure. I also don't believe that we're going to be taken over by robots anytime soon. But what is next is a better UX. So the user experience is definitely going to be improving. And also what I would call the one-screen experience. Right now, you look at this event and others, which is the best event, by the way. You know.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Much appreciated.
That there's a dizzying amount of choices. Right now, the landlord ecosystem that is really the driver of this, the buying of these types and consumer of these types of technologies, there's too many choices. It's the sort of the app mentality. So we're going to see sort of like a calibration of the different choices, and probably what will emerge is one platform that will have all these things sort of into the one screen. So is it 1, 2, 3 years away? Probably not, but it's not too far away.
Right, very exciting.
I'm not exactly sure what's going to be next, but I know what I'd like to see.
Sure.
I'd like to see, right now we use a lot of WebEx and conference calls and things like that to do long distance meetings. I'd like to see virtual environments created where we can, be present there, perhaps through devices like Oculus Rift or other types of 3D virtual reality goggles, and then interact with data and people and even other things in that environment so that we can really leverage alternative workplace strategies in a way that we just can't right now.
Right, and let's stay with you. Do you think that your clients, are they going to be receptive to this? Are you going to be introducing this to them and planning on it if you already haven't?
I don't know if you're familiar with some of the brutal cost cutting that's gone on inside corporate America during the past 5 years. Because revenue growth has not been great in traditional businesses, people have engaged in really, really tough cost-cutting exercises like the elimination of travel budgets, right? And
right.
So, but you still need to meet and occasionally have conversations in
right.
global corporations. So what's the best way to do that? Right now, all we got is like WebEx and conference call. And there's got to be a better way.
We won't say anything. Right, there has to be, exactly, we'll leave it with that, right. What's next for RDM?
So the future for RDM is twofold. One is our national rollout, which we already are doing business in 20 markets. We have over 200 million square feet of customer activity in our platform. And we are, secondly, building new technology modules. Like today, we're proud to announce the debuting of our drawing tool.
Oh, very
and essentially
cool.
what that is, imagine you go down to the floor plan level and a broker says, I want more or less space. Usually you'd have to make a couple phone calls to an architect or a space planner. Here we're empowering the brokerage community to actually draw a line, recalculate the wall space, create a new scenario, and publish that. So new features and national rollout.
Great. And Vit, what's next for Augmented Pixels?
We're working now on technology for interior design. You can scan your environment, change and see like new interior design. So this is the next tool what we're planning to release on the market maybe in 4 months. It's a lot of technology here.
Very cool.
Yep.
Very cool. And Greg, let's finish up. What's next with Cube Cities?
Well, we're completing a transition from Google Earth technology to a new technology called Cesium, and the capabilities with Cesium are really exciting. So we're going to be able to do a lot more with the technology and pull buildings apart and examine them every which way. So we're excited.
That's great. We'll be looking out for that. And thank you, gentlemen, again for joining us today. This has been Overtime Live, sponsored by F9 Analytics. And thank you very much.